order to understand Jia Song, it is necessary to begin at the beginning. Not in a tedious David Copperfield kind of way. After all, Jia remembered nothing of when she was born. Who did? Save for the sort of Dickensian male worthy of his namesake. The beginning for Jia Song could have been any number of formative moments in the life of a child from an immigrant family. It could have been the time in 5th grade when she was chased at recess by 3 boys, tugging the corners of their eyes and yelling, "Ching chong ching," their cackles ringing through the schoolyard like racist hyenas. Right until Jia spun on her heel and hawked Korean hot sauce in their eyes with the precision of a spitting cobra. They cried like babies, and Jia was suspended from school for her role in the gochujang caper, as she liked to call it. She was in a Nancy Drew phase. Her mother had been embarrassed, her father amused. "잘했어," he'd said under his breath as he'd squeezed her shoulder. "Good job." Then he'd offered her a single emphatic nod, like she'd handled her shit and he didn't have to worry about her anymore. Her mother had whirled on him, Korean words flying from her lips, a litany on the importance of decorum and good character and setting a proper example, and on and on and on. Not that Jia's punishment mattered. There would never be a minute of any day when it was not worth it just to recall the memory of their swollen faces, snot dribbling down their chins as one of them wailed for his mommy. But no, that occasion wasn't the beginning. Nor was it the night Jia's grandfather died of a heart attack when she was 13. She had been the first to know he'd left this world for the next. Why? Because Harabuji's ghost had come to tell her, in a calm, rational manner, that it was up to her now to make sense of this mess. In retrospect, Jia supposed that night was as good as any to call a beginning. Still, that was not quite it. The beginning for Jia Song was a January in the early aughts, the day Alexandra Niarchos came into the Song family's Lower East Side bodega carrying an Hermes Birkin bag. At the time, Lexi Niarchos ruled over Manhattan's social scene, her bladed cheeks and glossy lips framed by that season's most coveted style of bedhead. The young socialite's white teeth and huge Oliver Peoples sunglasses gleamed from the pages of the gossip columns and fashion magazines 15-year-old Jia devoured. But Jia was unprepared for the impression this chance meeting with Lexi Niarchos would leave on her. That lone interaction of no more than 3 minutes would alter the course of her life. It was freezing that January morning, cold in a city kind of way, bracing and metallic, the chill rumbling around iron bars and whistling through steel grates. It was still dark outside, smoke and radiator exhaust unfurling against the sky. Jia had decided to go with her mother to work so that she could study for her biology exam later that day. When the brass bell chimed above the door to their bodega, Jia barely glanced up from where she sat beside the cash register, her textbook resting on her lap. From the tiny stockroom, the faint strains of her mother's endless argument with Medicare over Harmony's insulin harmonized with the Korean drama playing on their ancient tube television behind Jia to form a twisted symphony. A fucked-up soundtrack for their exceptionally ordinary life. A strange scent wound through Jia's nostrils, the scent of oiled leather. Something expensive and extraordinary, like polished hunting boots at Balmoral Castle. It mingled with the faint perfume of rose petals and melting sugar.